Hi, my name's Eric. I'll be reading you selections from today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Tuesday, August 18th of 2026. And we will start with the weather, as we always do. And across the Cape and Islands today, expect partly sunny and humid conditions with a high of 78. It's going to be humid all week, folks. Going to be partly cloudy and humid tonight with a low of 66. Same thing tomorrow with showers expected, a high of 82, a low of 67. On Thursday, clouds and sun with a shower, humid, high of 79, low of 66. On Friday, pretty similar, partly sunny, pleasant, a little less humid, high of 79, low of 62. That looks like the best day of the week, although today looks pretty good too, other than the humidity. And then on Saturday, periods of rain throughout the day, high of 77. A low of 66. The sun will rise at 5:53 a.m. It will set at 7:37 p.m. And we will have 13 hours, 44 minutes of daylight. Now, heading to the front of the paper, where they used to keep the lottery results, they no longer print them in the Cape Cod Times, and I believe it's because the Times goes to press too early to give you those latest results. But since you asked for them, we will find them for you at the masslottery.com website. So, for the numbers game yesterday, Monday, August 17th, in the midday, the winning numbers were 7-0-7-0. Again, yesterday's midday winning numbers in the numbers game, 7-0-7-0. In the evening, last night's numbers game results 1-6-1-3. Again, last night's evening winning numbers in the numbers game 1-6-1-3. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. Now, on the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, the headline above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper, candidates make cases in radio debate. Election 2026 Democratic primary. Galaboyce and Giardino competing for Cape Islands District Attorney by Susan Vaughn. During a live radio debate on Thursday, Cape and Islands District Attorney candidates Robert Galaboyce, the incumbent, and challenger Michael Giardino took up the question of political affiliation when an early caller asks Giardino why and when he had changed his voter registration. Both Galaboyce and Giardino are running as Democrats on the September 1st primary ballot. In response, Giardino said the question had come up a lot in the campaign. I've always been identified as a part of the Democratic Party, he said during The Point program on WCAI. Giardino came from a Democratic family and was registered as a Democrat until 2016, when he became an unenrolled voter because he said he felt it was important to have choices, but added, I don't think it changed my political identity. Giardino said he re-enrolled as a Democrat when he decided to run for district attorney earlier this year because he said he felt it was important to be affiliated when involved in the electoral process. Giardino acknowledged he voted for the Republican candidate, who was Dan Higgins, in the 2022 election for district attorney because he was a co-worker and friend. Galaboyce, though, commented on Giardino's changing his affiliation in 2016, saying, we all know that Trump was elected in 2016. Giardino retorted that his vote was related to the local primary election, and the implication that he supported Trump was inaccurate. In turn, Galaboyce stressed his affiliation as a lifelong Democrat. Both candidates agreed that political affiliation should not be a factor in the role of district attorney or in the courtroom. The two candidates also debated office staffing, program priorities, and other issues during the 50-minute debate. WCAI host Mindy Todd posed the questions and took calling questions from the public. Both candidates have backgrounds in Cape and Islands DA office. Galaboyce, who's 56, has led the office since 2022. after being the first Democrat to be elected since the office opened in 1974. He was an assistant district attorney in the same office and had a private practice as a defense attorney for 5 years. Giardino, who's 45, worked in the Cape and Islands office for 12 years under former district attorney Michael O'Keefe, a Republican, and briefly for Galabois. He's been in the Plymouth district attorney's office since November of 2024. A letter released by former Galabois employees. The first question Todd posed in the debate was about issues raised in a letter released early in the campaign from 9 former female employees of Galabois as the district attorney. In the letter, they announced their support of Giardino and criticized Galabois for assignment changes, particularly for victim witness advocates. In the debate, Giardino backed up the women's claims that 35 to 40 longtime employees left the office or retired early in the first 2 years under Galabois. He said he would not speculate about the reasons, but added that it speaks volumes as to what was going on with the office and how it was being managed. Galabois responded that reasons for some departures were that some employees didn't like a new requirement of annual performance reviews, and that he expanded the Victim Witness Advocates program to include businesses as victims. Galabois added that most employee turnover has leveled off in the last year. He also named all his Victim Witness Advocate team, cited what he said was their good work, and stressed the department's support. The candidates were asked about themselves. When asked to talk about themselves, Giardino said he cares about the district's attorney's office and the work it does. I realized quickly the work we do gives an opportunity to effectively help our community, he said. He said he brings a different type of experience and leadership from Galabois as a career prosecutor. Galabois said he had made good on promises to voters who wanted change. He said his accomplishments are hiring the first woman assistant district attorney and hiring more women, a double-digit decline in opioid overdose deaths, the first mental health court, addressing issues such as human trafficking, elder exploitation, and women's right to health care services, and helping veterans and indigent residents. Galabois said Giardino spent the bulk of his career in an old guard Republican network, and then in 2024 joined a Republican district attorney's office where 5 previous colleagues work. They want to take back control. That's what this election is really about, Galabois concluded. Giardino responded that his campaign's not about moving backward, but moving forward by taking his career accomplishments and providing better prosecutions and better victim services. What are the candidate's top priorities? Galabois said his top priority in his next term is to build an elder fraud unit in the department to address the growing scourge. Giardino, as the challenger, said his top priority is creating stability in the district attorney's office and making sure resources are available for employees to be successful. The other story on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, dated August 18th, has a headline that reads, Warren, Homes Should Be for Families, Not Wall Street, by Denise Coffey. Senator Elizabeth Warren visited Martha's Vineyard on August 14th to promote a new bipartisan federal housing law she says could help communities build more homes and reduce housing costs. One stop was a 48-unit housing development recently completed by Martha's Vineyard Hospital, built to recruit and retain staff who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford living costs on the island. Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts, said she was inspired by what the hospital did. Her visit included a roundtable with hospital and elected officials, housing advocates, business leaders, and the public to see if there is more the federal government can do to lower construction costs further. Warren's visit comes weeks after Congress approved the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. The law passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in both House and Senate, but without the signature of President Trump. Democrats and Republicans work together, Warren said. There's no place in America where housing is not a problem, she said in an August 14th telephone interview. It's a problem in urban areas, rural areas, for first-time homebuyers, for seniors, rental housing, housing to own, all are in short supply. Banking Committee Chairman Senator Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina, and Ranking Member Warren of the House Financial Services Committee Chairman French Hill, a Republican from Arkansas, and Ranking Member Maxine Waters, a Democrat from California, authored the bill. The big insight behind the bill is that the federal government cannot be in the business of dictating housing anywhere in America, but it can be a good partner to places that want to build more housing, Warren said in the phone interview. Being a good partner on the Vineyard is different than it is in Pittsfield. It's different in Massachusetts than it is in Ohio. The bill contains 50 different provisions. Some will be helpful in Massachusetts, but others won't be applicable, Warren said. She wants to talk with people around the state about how pieces of this legislation could be used to help with building more housing. She'll hold a roundtable in Pittsfield on August 16th. She called it a time to bring in more ideas for the future. One provision in the bill will change federal regulations around manufactured housing, which is estimated to lower costs by an estimated $10,000 per unit. Federal regulations require modular homes to have a chassis in order for owners to get access to federally insured mortgages, and that rule is no longer in effect. Frankly, it, meaning the chassis, does no good in about 99% of the cases, Warren said. We removed that. With manufactured housing units costing about $80,000 to $100,000, knocking off $10,000 is a big deal. There are no mandates to change zoning bylaws in the bill, Warren said. That's left up to local communities. But municipalities will have incentives to build more housing with an innovation fund. That fund would make help available for school expansion or sewer updates required because of additional housing. Communities receiving Community Development Block Grant funds could see their money increased or decreased depending on how much housing they build. National data will be collected to show where housing is being built. Places building fewer houses are going to lose some of the money, and that money will be redistributed to places building more new housing, Warren said. The bill prohibits private equity from buying single-family homes. The trend of investors buying up single-family homes has been growing for a decade. Data shows those investors are making home ownership harder, and in many places, driving up rents, Warren said. Homes should be for families to live in, not for Wall Street to make a profit, Warren said. This is the first bill in history to say no to private equity about anything. Moving inside the paper, a news note, half mile of Route 28 in Mashpee was closed on Sunday by Allison Bozma. A section of Route 28 in Mashpee was temporarily closed in both directions Sunday after a pole and wires came down across the road. Half a mile of the well-traveled road was closed from Shellback Way to Industrial Drive, according to a Mashpee police dispatcher, where a detour was in place. The alert first went up on the Mashpee Facebook page at 7:19 a.m. By around 9 a.m., Eversource had the area tagged on its outage map with an estimated restoration time of 9:30 a.m. for fewer than 5 people without power. Again, keeping it local. Moving into the Cape and Islands section, visit Cape Cod restaurants from Tony, where Bourdain got his start, by Gwen Friss. All but one of the Provincetown restaurants featured in the new Anthony Bourdain biopic, Tony, are still open. So you can eat in the places where Bourdain first fell in love with the power of food. We can offer some insider tips on what's happened with those restaurants since 1975, when the film takes place. But first, let's set the scene. Bourdain returned to Cape Cod for the summer of '76 and then went to the Culinary Institute of America, graduating in 1978 and working his way up the New York City culinary scene. He became executive chef at the renowned Brasserie Les Halles in 1998. 2 years after Bourdain's racy and gritty memoir Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly, brought him to national attention in 2000, the chef traded in his toque for a backpack, traveling the world and filming food shows, including A Cook's Tour, No Reservations, and Parts Unknown, that explored the role of food in various cultures. Tony was really about connecting people over food, said John Yingling, owner of Spiritus Pizza and Bubala's by the Bay, in a tribute the Cape Cod Times published after Bourdain's death in 2018. Tim McNulty, who owns and operates the Lobster Pot with his family, said August 13th that he never met Bourdain in those early days. His friends worked at the Lobster Pot. I was 13 in 1975 and working at my mom's restaurant down the street. I didn't know Anthony Bourdain. I just met him when he visited in 2014 to film an episode of CNN's Parts Unknown, McNulty said on Thursday. Although it's been 12 years, McNulty had no trouble remembering exactly what Bourdain ordered: classic Portuguese food. It's still on the menu, so guests can eat what Bourdain ate. In fact, they did at the New York premiere of Tony, where A24 Studios purchased the Lobster Pot's Portuguese kale soup through the Provincetown restaurant's partnership with Goldbelly Gourmet Foods to Go. Here are 4 Provincetown restaurants with a Bourdain connection. The Lobster Pot, 321 Commercial Street in Provincetown. The Lobster Pot, where Bourdain ate and drank with friends, has a huge menu, and some days a huge wait, as it doesn't take reservations. If you want to eat what Bourdain ate in 2014 when he dined with Yingling, his friend since the 70s, start with a Portuguese soup with potatoes, red kidney beans, potatoes, linguiça, and chorizo sausages. For an entree, have the Portuguese fish, which consists of a large piece of cod, baked with scallops and shrimp in a breadcrumb stuffing, all served in a savory, rich tomato broth. In a hurry? The Lobster Pot opened an express location in 2020 at 5 Ryder Street Extension, right near the McMillan Pier parking lot. A limited number of quick service selections from the Lobster Pot menu are available. McNulty said if you order online from the ferry, lunch will be ready when you dock, and you can eat at picnic tables on the beach. Next, Spiritus Pizza, 190 Commercial Street in Provincetown. Yingling, who went by the nickname John Jingles Yingling for many years, opened Spiritus in 1971 because he noticed while visiting Provincetown that it didn't seem to have a pizza shop or anything else that stayed open after bars closed down. The local haunt still stays open until 2 a.m., serving thin crust pizza and ice cream. The pizza shop, where Yingling said he sometimes let Bourdain crash, and where Bourdain's love interest works in Tony and worked in real life, is positively tame these days compared to the early days when drug use and sexual hijinks often had police dispersing hundreds of rowdy patrons eating pizza or waiting for it on Commercial Street. 2 things to know. No Business Like Dough Business, a documentary on the history of Spiritus and the central role it played in town, is available to stream for $6.25 at spirituspizza-movie.com. Also, Yingling owns Bubala's by the Bay, which is closing after this season to be torn down and replaced by a complex of housing and restaurants now under town review. Last chance for a meal on the patio or a little day drinking, cocktails or mocktails. The next restaurant is Ciro and Sal's, 4 Kiley Court in Provincetown. In the mid-'70s, Bourdain worked at both the Flagship and the nearby Ciro and Sal's, Founded 20 years earlier by artists Salvatore Del Deo and Ciro Cozzi. Cozzi went on to own the flagship and mentor Bourdain, who started there as a dishwasher when his friends got tired of him lazing around all day. The basement level Ciro's and Sal's started as a sandwich shop, but evolved over 72 years into a legendary northern Italian restaurant known for its romantic setting, including dinner in a rustic wine cellar. New this year at Ciro and Sal's is the Back Door, a candlelit speakeasy tucked away behind and above the restaurant. You walk up a lighted pathway to the back door entrance. Craft cocktails and small plates are served 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays only. There is live music, including several locals who got their start in Provincetown. And the flagship at 463 Commercial Street in Provincetown rounds out the restaurants that are profiled. After 70 years as a restaurant or bar, the flagship sold in 2005, and it was replaced with a 3-bedroom, 3-bath private Waterview home, now valued at about $6 million by Z Estimate. Bourdain did not at first reveal the Provincetown restaurants where he worked, but eventually admitted that the dreadnought he wrote about in Kitchen Confidential was actually the flagship. Kitchen scenes from Tony that were reportedly in the flagship were actually shot in another beloved Cape Cod restaurant called Gina's by the Sea on Taunton Avenue in Dennis. That Italian restaurant closed permanently in 2024 after Larry Riley, who owned it for 44 years, retired. The closing was met with dismay from generations of Cape Codders who went to Gina's for special occasions, from first dates to family dinners. But Gina's by the Sea reopened for one night on August 9th, hosting a fundraiser for nearby Cape Cinema, whose executive director, Peter Fasano, paired the sentimental journey with an early screening of Tony. The other item, in the Cape and Islands section of today's Cape Cod Times, dated Tuesday, August 18th, Harwich Food Pantry's favorite item comes from Cape Cod Fisherman by Denise Coffey. Want to know what the most popular food item is at the family pantry of Cape Cod? It's a haddock chowder, often available on the grocery list at the Harwich-based food bank. It's no surprise because it comes straight from the local commercial fishermen, who are members of the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance. The Alliance provides haddock chowder, clam chowder, and fish stew as frozen entrees to clients of the family pantry. The Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance is a fabulous partner, said Gary Iger during a tour of the pantry warehouse on August 5th. They provide the most popular item we have, haddock chowder. It's another protein we can offer. The pantry acts as a quasi-local grocery store for nearly 700 clients weekly, and as such, it offers a selection of foods from protein to canned goods, cereals and pasta to eggs and dairy products. Clients select the foods they want from a list that's printed up weekly, and they can almost always get ground beef, chicken, pork, and fish. Sometimes the choices change, depending on what's available from the Greater Boston Food Bank. The chowders and stew have become a welcome addition to the offerings, according to Iger. The chowder program began during the COVID pandemic when the economy took a nosedive and people were let go from jobs and sales outlets for fishermen dwindled. More people went to food pantries for staples. Fishermen had a harder time selling their catch. The chowders and stew have made it to the top of the leaderboard, however, and when it's available, people are happy to get it, Iger said. The soups are available to the general public at select stores and at the Alliance headquarters in Chatham. Our next story, Cape Cod license plate grants to support area economic development by Susan Vaughn. The Cape Cod Commission has set aside $125,000 in grant money to support projects that spur economic development. The money is generated by the purchase of Cape Cod license plates. In an August 12th notice, the Commission, on behalf of Barnstable County and the Barnstable County Economic Development Council, announced it wants local or regional government or nonprofit agencies to vie for projects that support the area's economic resiliency and advance the goals and actions of the 2024 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. The grants are intended to provide quick, flexible funding to boost or expand initiatives tied to economic development, the notice said. Projects should be completed within 1 year from the date of the grant contract. The maximum award is $25,000. Match funding is not required, but is strongly encouraged. Municipally supported projects that advance year-round housing opportunities, climate resiliency, and water quality initiatives are preferred. Submitted proposals should advance at least one of the 10 key actions of the economic strategy in the areas of year-round housing, housing development, piloting ideas for organizations and entrepreneurs, year-round community action and civic engagement, educational training opportunities, growing industries, water quality and wastewater infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, canal bridges project, and climate change resiliency. To apply, visit cc.link/FY27-LPG-application. Awards are subject to the vote and approval of the Barnstable County Board of Regional Commissioners. Applications are due no later than September 25th of 2026, and selected applicants will be notified in November of 2026. Additional information and the application are available at capecodcommission.org/license plate. And now's a good time to remind people that if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, like those kind of long website numbers or any phone numbers that we might be reading, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org. It's a fully disability compliant website. Click on the Listen tab, and All Reads to the Blind has 150 chronologically arranged stories and readings that we have done, with the most recent at the top of the list. So it's easy to catch up on anything that you might have missed in the paper. We also keep a wide variety of periodicals and literature up there in perpetuity for your enjoyment. Our Ledger Actors Workshop has about 25 different plays that our volunteers have performed, and we have some very talented volunteers. Those are some very good plays. This month's is Meet the Bickersons, a comedy that plays at 8 o'clock most nights this week. And we also keep our shopping guides up there. And those are the shopping circulars that are put into the papers on Thursday and Friday. Those are aired on Saturday from noon to 2 and on Sunday from 11 to 1. They're about 15 minutes long each, and we cover Hannaford's, Market Basket, Big Y, Trukey's, Whole Foods, Stop and Shop, Shaw's and Star, and Roach Brothers. So somewhere where you probably shop, we are reading what is on sale there. So you can find out how to save some money when you go shopping at the supermarket. All of this is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. Now, we are just about at the midway point in our reading. Regular listeners are well aware, I'm sure, that at this stage we move to a different kind of local news, which are the obituaries and death notices listed in the Cape Cod Times of that day. And in the Cape Cod Times of August 18th, there is one obituary that's local. It's of Manuel H. Jason Jr. of Sandwich, formerly of Marston's Mills, who passed on August 6th at the age of 91. He was born in Provincetown, and upon graduation, Manny proudly joined the Marine Corps, serving his country in Korea for 2 tours. Mr. Jason, thank you for that service. Returning to Provincetown, he joined the Provincetown Police Department, serving for a number of years before transferring to the Barnstable Police Department in 1967. Manny was promoted to sergeant in 1973 and was patrol sergeant and watch commander until his retirement in 1998. Manny enjoyed motorcycles, reading, and peace and quiet, especially funny because he is survived by 10 children. Manny will be remembered by many family and friends. He is survived by 12 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. He was preceded in death by his wife of 48 years, Joellen F. Gullickson Jason, his first wife, Maria Jason, and great-grandchild Jocelyn. Manny will be buried next to his wife, Joellen, at Midway Lutheran Church Cemetery in Coleman, South Dakota. And the other obituary is one of a national obituary. Heroes star Panettiere dies at 36. Former child actress had detailed struggles by Annika Reed of USA Today. Hayden Panettiere, the former child actress best known for her roles in TV series like Heroes and Nashville, has died. She was 36 years old. Her representative confirmed her death to USA Today on August 16th. TMZ was the first to share the news. It is with profound sadness that we share the tragic passing of our beloved Hayden. She was an incredible light and a force of nature who brought immeasurable love and joy to all who knew her, and to the millions who watched her on screen, her father, Skip Panettiere, said in a statement. Her father asked for privacy as our family takes time to process this unimaginable loss. A cause of death has not yet been shared. The actress, whose long and prolific career in TV and film began when she was a baby, had been vocal in recent years about her troubles with addiction and the effects of childhood stardom. A young blonde starlet with plenty of on-screen spunk, Panettiere held her own against top stars in her early career, starring opposite Denzel Washington in Remember the Titans and Callista Flockhart in Ally McBeal. Those early career moments also included roles in the soap opera One Life to Live, the crime procedural Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and the animated film A Bug's Life. Her roles in Disney's 2004 film Tiger Cruise and in 2005's Ice Princess brought her to the masses. Panettiere's breakout starring role came as cheerleader Claire Bennett on NBC's teen superhero drama Heroes, and later as a country pop singer in more than 100 episodes of Nashville. She starred as Kirby Reed in the Scream slasher film franchise, appearing in 2011's Scream 4, 2022's Scream, and 2023's Scream 6. She also starred in films Bring It On, All or Nothing, I Love You, Beth Cooper, and Raising Helen. In her candid memoir that was released earlier this year, This Is Me, A Reckoning, Panettiere chronicled childhood fame, dealing with nefarious actors in her teens and addiction as an adult. In interviews about the memoir, Panettiere reflected that she was groomed to be a little soldier throughout her early career. Grown-ups gave me positive attention when, as an actor, I failed, got sick, screamed and cried, killed, grieved, and suffered. Reality merged with my imagination and burrowed into my core memories, where all my shame and trauma lives, Panettiere wrote in her memoir. I've often wondered whether unintentionally I've brought on my traumas because I'm wired to think they're good for me. Born August 21st, 1989, Panettiere was raised in Palisades, New York, by former soap actress Leslie Vogel and Alan Lee Skip Panettiere, a former captain with the New York City Fire Department. She began appearing in television commercials before she turned 1, spending the rest of her life in front of the camera. She was one of the youngest Grammy nominees, earning a nomination for Best Spoken Word Album for Children for A Bug's Life Read-Along. She also nabbed nominations for Golden Globes, Young Artist Awards, People's Choice Awards, and Critics' Choice Television Awards, winning a Teen Choice Award in 2007 for Choice TV Actress in a Drama for Heroes. When she was a teen, Panettière's team gave her happy pills, an amphetamine, Panettière believed, before interviews and red carpets to help her focus. Panettière wrote in her memoir that this habit would forever change her world. At 16, they were the gateway drug that ushered me toward the good of pharmaceuticals and the downfall of addiction, she wrote. Elsewhere, the actress wrote that her turn on Nashville often reflected the real-life confusion she felt. Juliette Barnes had postpartum depression and an alcohol and pill problem and a divorce on the horizon. She was erratic, an absentee mother, and fought with everyone, including her fans. Every time I read the day's script, it was like I was looking in a funhouse mirror, seeing a distorted reflection of myself. I can't tell you how lost this made me feel, Panettière wrote. Her substance misuse is not the only issue the Panettière family has experienced. Panettière wrote in her book that her brother Jansen was smoking crack and snorting heroin before he died in 2023 at age 28. At the time, the family revealed the cause of death as cardiomegaly, enlarged heart, coupled with aortic valve complications. In the throes of postpartum depression after having her daughter Kaya, Panettière wrote that she became addicted to alcohol and Klonopin, a central nervous system depressant. At one point, a doctor told her she'd be dead within 5 years if she didn't stop drinking, she wrote. The actress shares Kaya, who's 11, with her former fiancé, Vladimir Klitschko, a Ukrainian professional boxer. During this time, Panettière said the first thing she thought of when she woke up was alcohol. Not my child, not my job, not the rest of my life. I needed a drink to function. Klitschko then asked for full custody of their daughter, worrying about her being in Panettière's care. The actress detailed the move to give over full custody during an appearance on Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast in May. The idea that anybody would think that I would just give away my child and be okay with it is heartbreaking, she told Shetty. It couldn't be further from the truth. It became this horrible cycle for years of battling depression and anxiety and alcoholism and substance abuse, and just me trying to find my way back. Panettière previously opened up about the criticism on a 2022 episode of Red Table Talk. She made the move to give up custody wasn't a discussion, and that Klitschko thought that I could choose to snap out of it. At the time that she signed the papers, she said she believed Kaya would come back to live with her when she got healthy. But that never happened. Editorial note contributing to that article were Claire Mulroy, Taiwan Mormon, and Kimmy Robinson of USA Today. Back to closing out the local news after those obituaries. Woman pulled from John's Pond in Mashpee and taken to hospital by Allison Bozma. Bystanders in Mashpee may have rescued a woman from drowning at John's Pond on Saturday. A woman was pulled from the water shortly after noon by bystanders who initiated CPR, Mashpee Fire Captain Nicole Stanley said. We got a call for a possible drowning, person not breathing, not conscious, Stanley said. On our arrival, the patient was breathing. The woman was still taken to Cape Cod Hospital as a priority 1 patient, though she regained consciousness by the time they arrived at the hospital. And we've completed all the local stories in today's Cape Cod Times of August 18th. Moving on to the national and international, Court nixes Trump's new appeal in Carroll case by Maureen Grope. In Washington, the Supreme Court rejected for the second time an effort by President Donald Trump to avoid paying more than $5.6 million to writer E. Jean Carroll for sexually abusing and defaming her. The court on August 17th declined to reconsider Trump's appeal of a 2023 jury verdict in a civil suit brought by Carroll, a former advice columnist for Elle magazine. Trump had to pay Carroll nearly $5.63 million, the $5 million judgment plus interest, after the court first rejected his appeal on June 29th. His lawyers fought the payment, arguing he deserved a chance to ask the Supreme Court to reconsider his request. It's rare for litigants to ask for a second look, and even rarer for the court to grant one. Trump's lawyers said reconsideration was warranted because the case is connected to another appeal involving Carroll that they've asked the Supreme Court to hear. In that case, a Manhattan civil jury awarded Carroll $83.3 million from Trump in 2024, based on the conclusion that Trump defamed her in 2019 when he first denied her allegations. Trump's lawyers have argued he should have immunity for his 2019 comments because he made them while serving as president. The Carroll cases are civil, not criminal lawsuits. The dispute started in 2019 when Carroll published an excerpt from her memoir in which she alleged that Trump had raped her around 1996 in a Bergdorf Goodman department store dressing room in Manhattan. Trump fired back with allegations that she was making up the story to sell her book. Carroll sued him months later, eventually winning the $83.3 million judgment. As the case was ongoing, Trump repeated the denial in a social media post in 2022. Carroll then sued Trump again, under a special window of time that New York granted to sexual abuse survivors. And in 2023, a New York jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse against Carroll, and that resulted in the $5 million verdict. Federal appeals courts have upheld both judgments. Contributing to that article was Reuters. The next headline, Trump orders South Korea drills cut. President cites costs and Seoul's stance on Iran. By Kostas Pitis, Dade Lader, and Hee-Jim Kim of Reuters in Washington. President Donald Trump on August 16th instructed the Pentagon to substantially reduce joint military exercises with South Korea, citing the cost of the drills and Seoul's refusal to take part in actions against Iran. Hours before exercises were scheduled to begin, Trump said on his Truth Social site he was not happy that the United States had agreed to participate and highlighted his former good relationship with Kim Jong-un, the leader of nuclear-armed and sanctioned North Korea. These exercises are not only costly, but they send a signal that's totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. The annual Freedom Shield joint military exercises are scheduled to run until August 27th, until about September 18th, with South Korean military personnel participating. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff told Reuters the drills started on August 17th as scheduled. South Korea's presidential Blue House said it was reviewing Trump's post and hopes that the friendly relationship between the U.S. and North Korean leaders will lead to meaningful dialogue between the two countries, opening discussions aimed at advancing peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, it said. The allies could continue coordinating on their combined defense posture and military exercises, it said. Responding to Trump's claim that President Lee Jae-myung had refused to join U.S. efforts to denuclearize Iran, it said Seoul was discussing potential military contributions while considering its defense readiness on the Korean Peninsula and domestic legal procedures. A Pentagon spokesperson referred questions on the matter to the White House, which did not immediately respond to a request for details. Trump has long sought to end or curtail military exercises with South Korea, while clashing with Seoul over sharing the costs of stationing 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea and their role in securing the broader region. North Korea, still technically at war with the South, routinely denounces the U.S.-South Korean exercises as preparations for an invasion. Pyongyang recently fired a ballistic missile from its eastern coast toward the Sea of Japan, after a similar North Korean short-range ballistic missile launch. This decision may be part of a larger effort to create a diplomatic opportunity with Pyongyang, as Trump has consistently wanted since coming back to office, although the haphazard nature is more likely to make much more of an impression on Pyongyang. Jen Town, head of the Stimson Center think tank's 38 North program, said in an email. Trump once mocked the North Korean leader as Little Rocket Man and threatened Pyongyang with fire and fur, while Kim boasted that he could tame the mentally deranged U.S. retard with fire. Yet they also took part in 3 summits, with Trump declaring he fell in love after exchanging letters with Kim. None of these efforts led to changes in North Korea's nuclear weapons or ballistic missile development. And if it sounded like I was reading that very choppy or choppily, it is a terrible article in terms of there's all sorts of problems with the spelling and words are out of order. Very challenging. So we got you the important part of it. Moving on. Our next headline, flooding ongoing in Indiana following deadly storms. This is reported by Christopher Kahn, Aubrey Wright, John Tufts, Julia Gomez, and James Powell of the USA Today Network. Parts of southern Indiana faced heavy flooding and power outages on August 17th as other parts of the state continued recovery efforts after days of severe thunderstorms prompted deadly flash floods, authorities said. Officials reported water rescues and stranded vehicles in Morgan and Johnson counties south of Indianapolis. Multiple people fled their homes as the White River was expected to crest in Morgan County, according to the National Weather Service. The floods were caused by rushing water moving south after heavy rain caused widespread flooding in northern and central Indiana. By the morning of August 17th, flooding had begun affecting homes in southern areas of the state. Indiana Governor Mike Braun said flooding reached levels not seen in more than 100 years in some parts of the state, and more than 300,000 homes and businesses lost power. By early August 17th, just over 106,000 customers were without power as crews raced to restore service, according to a USA Today tracker. Most of the outages were in Lake County in northeast Indiana. The deluge inundated entire communities and prompted local and statewide emergency declarations. President Donald Trump approved an emergency declaration for Indiana on August 15th, allowing the Federal Emergency Management Agency to provide resources to the state. At least 7 storm-related deaths have occurred across Indiana since August 11th after strong winds and heavy rainfalls pummeled the state. In Delaware County, located in east central Indiana, 19-year-old Matthew Morey was found dead after authorities say he and 3 friends jumped into the Mississinewa River. Stephanie Sally, who's 58, died after her car was swept away by moving water, officials said. A 4-year-old was reported dead after a tree fell through a home in Jennings County, southeast of Indianapolis, and a 31-year-old bicyclist died after police believe he rode around traffic barricades and fell into a gaping sinkhole in Henry County. Investigators believe James Breyer of Newcastle was riding his bicycle when he bypassed traffic barriers and crashed into the hole. Liz Woods, a Delaware County official, told the Indianapolis Star, part of the USA Today network, that the other victims included a woman in Lake County, a woman in Porter County, and a man in LaPorte County. The storm threat will persist through the week, meteorologists said, as floodwaters continue to move downstream. National Weather Service meteorologist Matthew Eckhoff said the Indianapolis metro area may experience more rain through August 18th. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service office in Indianapolis said moderate flooding will continue along the White River in Indianapolis and areas south of the state capital, as well as along the Wabash River between Lafayette and Terre Haute. Also weather-related, the headline reads, Hawaii assesses damage from tropical storm Lala, by Tao Nguyen, Karina Zayetz, Christopher Kahn, and Dinah Voiles-Pulver of USA Today. Residents and emergency crews across Hawaii were assessing damage and clearing debris on August 17th as Tropical Storm Lala moved away from the islands after leaving widespread power outages and flooding in its wake. The storm weakened from a Category 1 hurricane to a tropical storm on August 16th as it tracked west away from Hawaii. But forecasters and officials warned that hazards will linger in several areas. At least 100 homes were destroyed or lost in the storm as floodwaters inundated communities. The National Hurricane Center discontinued tropical storm warnings for Maui County and the island of Oahu, leaving Kauai County as the only area under a tropical storm warning on August 17th. Forecasters said the storm could strengthen again and regain hurricane status later this week as it moves farther west across the central Pacific. Flooding, mudslides, and hazardous surf remain concerns even as the storm departs. Forecasters warned that additional rainfall and saturated ground could prolong impacts, while large swells generated by Lala were expected to keep creating dangerous surf and rip current conditions. Total rainfall over the islands has been extreme, the National Weather Service in Honolulu said late on August 16th. All of the highest rainfall totals were along the windward side of the Big Island, where 20 to 40 inches of rain were reported, according to Patrick Blood with the Weather Service. The highest recorded storm total rainfall, 43.54 inches, fell at Lopahoho on the island's northeast coast. Most of that fell during the 24 hours between the afternoons of August 15th and 16th. Elsewhere, at least 10 to 15 inches was reported on Maui, 5 to 10 inches of rain on Molokai, Lanai, and Oahu, and 10 to 15 inches on Kauai, the Weather Service said. By early August 17th, most of the rain had finally departed, but flood advisories remained active throughout the islands of Kauai, Niihau, Oahu, Lanai, Molokai, and Kahoolawe, according to the National Weather Service. The storm prompted hundreds of emergency responses over the weekend, including reports of downed trees, damaged roofs, fallen power lines, and water rescues. More than 126,000 homes and businesses were without power early on August 17th, according to Hawaiian Electric, the utility company serving much of the island chain. Customers on Hawaii Island are being asked to prepare for extended outages in the hardest-hit rural areas of the island, the company said in a statement. Several main transmission lines were impacted on Hawaii Island, Maui, and Oahu, according to Hawaiian Electric. Hawaii officials said August 16th that no storm-related deaths had been reported following Lala's passage, and we pray that remains true, Hawaii County Mayor Kimo Alameda said at a news conference. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said one person died in a car crash during the storm, but noted that officials hadn't determined whether the incident was connected to weather conditions that were caused by Lala. We have a few minutes remaining. We'll move to the advice column portion of today's Cape Cod Times. A reminder, today's date is Tuesday, August 18th of 2026. From Ask Carolyn, Carolyn Hacks. Divorced mom wants more help with visiting costs. Is it okay to say no? Dear Carolyn, my stepdad and mom are suddenly getting a divorce in their mid-60s due to financial disagreements over retirement. It's not been a healthy separation. My stepdad will be covered and is planning a quiet retirement on a river near family. Mom wants to move to a bigger city to continue a social life and working. I don't live near either of them, but I would like my son to know both. My husband and I have been independently successful for 13 years and have covered multiple trips for my mom to visit or for us to visit her. She continues to want multiple trips a year, but with the divorce, it seems that she's gotten more desperate for us to cover everything. It's affecting our finances, and she wants to go out and do things while she visits. I don't know if I should support this to maintain her relationship with her grandson or focus on our own family dynamic. Signed, Grown Child of Divorce. Grown child of divorce. Why must it be either or, supporting her travel or our own family dynamic? Your mom is part of that dynamic, for one, because you want her to be. But her lifestyle doesn't just go on your tab, no matter how successful you are or how desperate she is. You may decide it does out of compassion, sure, or a sense of duty, or even a selfish desire for grandma to spend time with your kid. But no amount of your success or her desperation turns this into an invoice. So, figure out how much time and money you can spare toward the son knows his grandparents project, and then as needed, cut it down to what you're willing to spare. That's your budget. Next, split it fairly between your mom and stepdad. Note I said fairly, not evenly. Then update your mom. For example, that you can cover her completely for X trips to see you per year, or cover half of Y visits, and then see how she wants to handle it. Running the numbers in your mind like this might seem heartless, but the alternative is to try to please everyone, and in that process overdraw your selfhood accounts, sometimes financial ones too, often to the point of resentment. See the "it is affecting our finances" quote, or to hoard resources at the other extreme with needlessly preemptive walls. See focus on our own family dynamic. To know your limits is the happy middle, and it's a kindness. The best amount of money, time, and effort to give for your relationship is the amount you feel best about. That not only optimizes love, but also minimizes the kind of seething that pops up later as a surprise resentment tax on everyone else, to whom you never admitted being mad about doing all this stuff. And now the coda. Whatever your arrangement, also figure on impermanence as everyone gets older. Revisiting your calculations as things change is a nagging, complex to-do item, and often emotional, but it's a given. In fact, if you have any bits of cash to spare, then consider setting them aside in an "oh no" account. Not living near family tends to come with travel, eventually. That has nothing to do with what we want, like, or focus on. Future, you will thank current you. Future you will thank current you profusely for starting such a fund now. And with that excellent advice, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times for today, August 18th of 2026. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other, and remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.